Now, the former Bishop of Durham, Paul Butler, described it as cruel and considered it the biggest contributor to the rise in child poverty in the north. It's a change to the benefit system made 7 years ago, which prevents parents from claiming tax credits and other benefits for any more than 2 children. Well, here's Helen Richardson with more.
Yes, thank you, Richard. This story all dates back to 2015, when David Cameron's then government announced cuts to benefits. A new policy meant low-income families and those on universal credit could only claim support for their first 2 children and no more. It's estimated that 1 in 8 of all children across the North East are growing up in households affected by the policy. There are some exceptions if a family has twins or triplets and for children that are adopted, for example. But charities say the 2-child limit is leaving families struggling in poverty, and Labour has come under pressure from some of its own backbenchers to ditch the policy. I've been to meet one family in County Durham that's affected. Making their house a home. Lewis has just moved in with his partner in the summer. They have 4 children between them. But buying a place together meant they lost £1,200 from their monthly income overnight.
We've still got 4 children to look after and feed and clothe. We've got 4 sets of childcare costs to pay for, but we no longer get any help with that because now that we've moved in together, we're not deemed as single parents. All the rules are different. But because of the limit on the 2, we just fall just below the line. So now everything's a tightrope and we're living off 1 minimum wage and 1 charity sector wage. While
they have a roof over their heads and food on the table, Lewis says the 2-child limit is having a serious impact on their new financial situation.
It's worrying about the security. You know, we're just about keeping a roof over their head. We're just about paying the energy bills. We're just about keeping everybody fed and clothed. But what would it take to fall off that cliff edge? You know, the families that are out there now relying on food banks or having to sell their homes, having to get rid of their cars and spend 3 hours getting to work on the bus because there's no transport around about. How far are we from that? And, you know, we're working full time. What else are you supposed to do?
Local charities say the situation is even worse for those out of work. The Cedarwood Trust in North Shields supports around 100 families a month with multiple children.
Why should one child be valued more than another child? Does that mean that those children don't eat properly for a week? That they live on snacks for a week? Isn't it far better to make it equal? This limit in itself is just another one of those elements that just doesn't make life any easier.
But shortly after being elected, the new Labour government refused to scrap the limit. The party insists it's too big a financial risk.
We're currently faced with a huge financial black hole, £22 billion, and we were elected on a platform of stable, sensible, careful management of the economy, and that does mean that we can't always do everything that we might want to do.
It isn't just anti-poverty campaigners that are critical. Those working with victims of domestic abuse also say the 2-child limit is inhumane.
The whole of this kind of cap on children assumes that every woman makes active choices about how many children they have, and that's particularly dangerous for women who have an abusive partner. It's harder for her to leave if she is pregnant again with a 3rd child or a 4th child, and actually he's saying, well, you can't leave, and she knows I'm not going to get any benefits for these extra 2 children that he has forced me to have.
The pressure continues to build on the government to support families that are just about making ends meet.
Helen Richardson. Well, Keir Starmer has spoken this week about changing the benefit system, but it's not reversing that 2-child limit he's got in mind. Rather, his focus has been on those claiming long-term sickness benefits, who he says should be expected to look for work. Well, let's talk to a guest. I will come to that latter issue, but Liam Bones, this was a Conservative idea. You've seen the impact of one family. There's actually thousands of families, thousands of children negatively impact on this. Would you still defend this policy?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way to bring children out of poverty isn't to just add more money to the UK's benefits bill. It's the fundamentals are people need more money in their pockets, and the 2 ways to do that are lower taxes and better paid, higher skilled jobs. And we've already talked about delivering higher skilled jobs with the example earlier in Northumberland, and the Conservative government in the last year, before it was unceremoniously chucked out, did reduce national insurance for working people across this country.
But you know, you can see the real world, this policy is having an impact, and it's having an impact on children who had no choice over this. It's their life prospects being damaged. It is immoral, isn't it?
Well, I don't think it's immoral. I think there was a really concerning point about 14 years ago where the benefits bill became completely uncontrollable.
And these children are going to pay the price.
Well, fundamentally, it was a decision that had to be made. It was a difficult decision, I appreciate, but it was one that needed to be made.
OK, Amanda Hopgood, the Liberal Democrats did want this to be ended in their manifesto. What impact does it have on in Durham, do you believe, this policy?
I think child poverty is a huge issue across County Durham and across the wider North East, and this doesn't help at all. Like you said, it's not the children's fault, and we've just seen a video of two families who've come together, and that's a prime example of some of the implications of a policy like this. But there is things that you can do instead of talking about it, which we have done in County Durham, of introducing free school meals, of automatic enrolment, which is
make a difference,
absolutely brilliant. There is only 16 children whose families refuse to go on that. That's bringing £3 million more into pupil premiums for our schools to help those children as well as the hundreds of children who will get a free school meal now. So there are things that can be done, but this policy really does need to be ended.
Ian Lavery, I know you agree with that. Obviously, your party isn't going to do it, though, but it made it quite clear during the election that this wasn't a choice that they were in a position to make. And you have to be, financially, you can't keep spending money, keeping the winter fuel allowance. There has to be responsibility, isn't there?
Well, there's a responsibility to make sure that kids in this country are fed. That's not too much to ask. It should be absolutely basic. This policy is inhumane, it is immoral, it's cruel, and for the sake of 2.5 billion, this is the figures from the Joseph Rowntree Trust, 2.5 billion to possibly 3.6 billion, it would automatically lift 500,000 kids.
I know the government...
500,000 kids out of poverty.
I know the government is looking at the child poverty straight.
That is money worth spending, let me say.
How can you persuade the government? Obviously, I think most Labour people, even within government, probably agree with you, but how can you persuade them to spend this money rather than not?
We've got to keep campaigning, because there is a general feeling, believe me, right across Parliament, from all parties, that this is inhumane, it's immoral, it's keeping kids in poverty, it's meaning that kids are going to school without, food in their bellies. What sort of society are we allowing that to happen when, for the sake of £3.6 billion, at the most, we can lift 500,000 kids out of poverty immediately?
OK, let's move to a wider issue. What did you make of Keir Starmer's comments about people on long-term sickness benefits wanting to seek work? There did seem to be a bit of compassion and support involved, as well as asking them to do it.
Well, at this moment of time, before the election, huge issues with long-term unemployment, long-term sickness. The big issues. We've got to look at the underlying issues of all that, and we need people to have the right support. There's people out there.
I think the Health Secretary has talked about more doctors, for instance, in the NHS areas like the North East, where there's long-term sickness.
We need these people. Instead of telling them if they don't get back to work, they'll be sanctioned, we need to give them the support which they once had, whether it's mental health support they need, whether it's physical health support that they require. That's what they need.
I want to get Liam Bones in briefly on this, which is, that it's a lot more compassion that Rishi Sunak was talking about. He talked about a benefits culture, a lifestyle choice. At least Labour are marrying, its responsibility with some support.
Look, I think if we're going to grow the economy at the rate that the Prime Minister says, then this is absolutely a fundamental. And I think we're really clear, and my party will absolutely be in agreement that more people need to be in work. And if the government's going to put the support in to make sure that more people are in work, so be it. At the end of the last Parliament, employment was higher than it ever has been.
All right, OK, thanks very much. And that is about it from us. Thanks to my guests and to you for watching, of course. Now, I'm off to the Conservative Party conference. I'll be on Look North tomorrow with more on the beauty contest to be next leader. If I survive that experience, touch and go, I'll be here same time next Sunday. Do enjoy the rest of your weekend.